2 or 3 weeks that will be phenomenal in terms of tax. We're doing very well in the fight against ISIS, as General Mattis has just explained, and we're going to be having a news conference in about 2 weeks, too. Britain's unemployment has reached its lowest level in only 65 years. But within about 2 weeks, I think new sections starting in about 2 weeks. We're building some brand new sections, large. I will make that decision, I would say, over the next 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, who knows? Or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I'm not looking at months, I can tell you right now. And we're asking every American to make major changes to reduce social interactions over the next 2 weeks. There's a possibility that sometime today we'll do a quarantine, short-term, 2 weeks on New York. We're very advanced in testing. Other countries are calling us to find out what are we doing. And by the way, within 2 weeks, you'll see numbers and you'll see different forms of testing in 2 weeks. Nothing would be worse than declaring victory before the victory is won. It would be very, very proper and very nice if a winner were declared on November 3rd instead of counting ballots for 2 weeks. If you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days, I heard it from Putin.
And do you still believe that Putin actually wants to end the war?
I can't tell you that, but I'll let you know in about 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, we're going to find out very soon.
So there's a ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran. That was supposed to bring some relief, right? Well, instead, it's sending these huge waves of uncertainty across global markets. Today, we're going to break down the high-stakes fallout from this really, really fragile truce. And here's the heart of the problem right from the get-go. We have an agreement on paper, but out on the water, in the world's most critical oil choke point, the Strait of Hormuz, it is just eerily quiet. Not a single oil tanker has passed through since this deal was signed, and that is creating some serious, immediate doubt. All right, so first up, let's take a closer look at the agreement itself. You know, on the surface, it feels like a step towards peace, but once you start to dig in a little bit, you can already see the cracks starting to form. I mean, it's only been 2 days. This 2-week ceasefire is brand new, and believe it or not, it's already on some seriously shaky ground. Both sides are digging in their heels, and the whole foundation of this truce is being tested by the hour. And this is where you really see the problem. The U.S. has laid out its bottom line. The strait has to be open, no nuclear weapons, and our military isn't going anywhere. But at the same time, Iran is already accusing the U.S. of breaking the deal and is calling the upcoming talks in Islamabad unreasonable. They're not even in the same ballpark to start. This puts us on a total razor's edge. I mean, that's a direct quote from the president, and it leaves zero room for interpretation. The U.S. position is crystal clear. Any slip-up by Iran, real or perceived, could just unravel everything in an instant. The stakes, honestly, could not be higher. So all this political tension, well, it sent an immediate economic shockwave right through the system. And it all started with a reaction in the global energy markets. Just look at this market whiplash. On Wednesday, just on the hope of peace and an open Hormuz, oil prices took their biggest nosedive since 2020, dropping a massive 16%. But then, by Thursday, as all these doubts about the ceasefire started creeping in, prices immediately bounced right back up. That is pure, unfiltered uncertainty playing out in real time. And that brings us to right now. A barrel of Brent Crude is kind of hovering around $97. Now, it's not at its crisis peak, but it definitely isn't reflecting a world that's at peace. That price tells you a story of traders pretty much just holding their breath. So why is the market still so jumpy? Well, it really boils down to 3 things. First, nobody really believes this truce is going to last. Second, and this is huge, the oil is still not flowing through Hormuz. And third, even if it was, the recent damage to refineries and terminals in the region means supply chains are going to feel this hangover for a long, long time. And this cautious mood, it goes way beyond oil. Let's take a look at the broader financial markets, because they went on a very similar emotional roller coaster. You should have seen Wall Street on Wednesday. The news of a ceasefire sent it into total celebration mode. The Dow, S&P 500, NASDAQ, they all surged. Sectors that get hammered by high energy costs, like airlines and travel, they led the whole charge. It was a classic relief rally. But yeah, that optimism had a very short shelf life. As the world turned and Asian markets opened for business, the mood had totally shifted from celebration to some pretty deep caution. And you can see this caution just rippling across all kinds of risk assets. U.S. stock futures started to dip, Asian markets opened hesitantly, some even lower, and even Bitcoin, which had rallied to a 3-week high over $72,000 on the news, has pulled back towards $71,000, as that initial good feeling just evaporated. So what does this all mean? When you pull everything together, the picture you get is one of profound global instability. And it's all stemming from this one single fragile agreement. So here's the bottom line. You have an incredibly fragile deal that both sides are already poking holes in. You have the single most important waterway for global energy still blocked. And you have markets swinging wildly, trying to figure out if the future is peace or a much wider conflict. And that leaves us with the defining question of the day. As the rhetoric heats up and those tankers stay put, are we just watching a brief pause that leads to a lasting peace, or is this just the calm before a much, much larger storm? That's what the entire world is waiting to find out.